Fantastic. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, I just wanted to say good morning. It's really great to see everybody back here again today. I know most of you live here on the call, but for those I don't, or for anybody listening to this via recording, I'm Val Ross from the New York Wine Grape Foundation, and I just want to welcome you again to today's webinar. This is going to be all about our program, our export program in the Canadian market. The export program is a really long-standing and important program here for the New York Wine and Grape Foundation. It's helped us put New York wines top of mind for trade and media and consumers all across the world. Every year we determine target markets, and those are determined by the wineries, and Canada is definitely one of those. The foundation's actually been running this program since 1993, so for a good long time now. And it is really made entirely possible with funding support from the USDA's Foreign Agriculture Service, or FAS as we call it. And FAS partners in each market have always really played an important role in helping us understand opportunities and challenges in each market. And they've always really been there to support us and be available to our team and our winery participants. So we're happy to have them as partners. And in fact, I just wanted to welcome today, we're really excited to have Maria Arbulu, who is the Senior Agricultural Marketing Specialist based in Toronto, here with us. And she's actually kind enough to say a few words. And Maria, I actually think I have a couple slides that I wanted to share from you, correct?
Yes, Valerie, if you don't mind and I'll tell you next, because sure. I'm just terrible at trying to share the presentation.
Not a problem. Maybe me too, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So here we go. Let me know if you're all seeing that.
Oh, yes. Excellent, Valerie. Excellent. Okay. I guess I'm the first presenter here.
You are.
Okay. So I'll get started just to give you a little bit background on myself. I'm a dual citizen. I'm U.S. and a Canadian, and I moved here in early 1990, right after the U.S. The NAFTA opened up, and I've been with USDA approximately 12 years. I'm the sole person here. I have a counterpart, Aurela Delabashi, that is based in Montreal, and likely she's on holiday right now. She maintains our wine and alcohol portfolio and is very well versed on it. But I will try to do my best today just to give you an initial overview. You can go ahead forward, Valerie. I always like to start off, generally speaking, that Canada continues to be our #1 export market when it comes to ready to eat, ready to drink foods. The market last year in 2021 reported $18 billion in US export, and that is almost double to that of what we export to Mexico. You can forward the next slide, Valerie. Just to highlight how big the market is in terms of alcohol and food sales in proportion. In 2021, the retail market and the HRI market total in food sales was 95 billion, and in liquor sales, including wine and distilled spirits, was 17 billion. So it's a fairly good size market. Go ahead next, Valerie. This is to give you a general idea, and this was taken from a report that we published, and later on in the presentation, I'll highlight those reports. But this just gives you an estimate of the of imports of wine alone. I understand in 2021, U.S. exports into Canada reached $26 million. And most 70% of Canadians consume imported wines. That does cover French wines, Italian, Australian, and of course, American wines. You can go forward, Valerie. Thank you. I'm going to mostly speak about Ontario. they're the 4 largest markets in Canada, which cover 94% of the wine market, is the British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. Here in Ontario, it's approximately a retail market size of a little over 7 billion, and following that is Quebec with over 4 billion in sales. You can go forward, Valerie. Ontario sales, and just to give you an idea, and I'm sure later on you will be explained, it's a regulated market. So all sales must come through the Liquor Control Board of Ontario and is primarily sold in these, the LCBO have their own stores. In Ontario, it's over 675 stores. About I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, the LCBO loosened their restrictions in terms of selling wine. Today, we can now purchase imported wines in select grocery stores, which there's about 157 stores in the Ontario market. Along with the 675 LCBO stores, there are 400 convenience stores, 450 beer stores. If you look at the Alberta market, they don't have this history as we do here in Ontario. They have always been able to buy their wines. And I don't know about distilled spirits. I think they're able to buy them in grocery stores as well. Valerie, you can go forward if you'd like. I just wanted to highlight that what we do good at the Foreign Agricultural Service are basically 2 things, is to estimate volume and value of export sales, and our statistics, of course, help evaluate and justify those markets where we put our FAS funding towards and support our groups. But we have a very good 2 reports that I think would be of interest to you. Is we have what we call a gain report. And if you just Google FAS gain report Canada and wine, it'll come up. About a year ago, our specialists in Ottawa wrote a report and then was published on the Ontario wine market. And including that gain report, we also have we have a report on the Quebec wine market. We have a number of other reports non-related to wine, such as our exporter guide, the retail report, HRI, food processing. And those are the reports that we have really dealing with marketing. You can go forward, Valerie. Basically, I just kind of slowly want to wrap up on this. And that is our expertise really is in reporting and measuring numbers, statistics, and following and monitoring regulation and policy here in the Canadian market that would impact our U.S. exporters and U.S. agriculture. But I can't tell you a lot about myself and our role about doing business in Canada, but I'll leave you with 2 things. And that is more so in the alcohol channels, you really need an agent to help mentor you. They have the contacts, they understand so well how the liquor control boards work. And it can be quite a labyrinth of of resources centers and how you navigate working with and how you get your product listed. And if you decide you primarily just want your product into consignment, and they know the restaurant chains and the bars and so forth. You're very fortunate with the New York Wines that they have a Canadian rep, and that is a.m.c.c. And they really know more of the technical knowledge that I don't have myself about navigating. I think Amanda and Melissa are on the line. I recently met them there was a New York wine tasting here that took place. It was quite lovely. Our consul general was thrilled to go and sit through the master class. And just as a note, our consul general is very supportive of supporting U.S. wines into the Canadian market. And she genuinely, our CG is Susan Crystal, really wants to know and understand the regions and what their competitive edge is. The last thing I would like to just spend a couple of minutes to highlight is there is what you call the branded funding program that is available to specific companies. And this is extremely, I think those of you who are new to the market, you're doing the right thing. First, understand the market, work with the New York Wine and Grape Foundation, work with them closely in the export programs that they might have and are available. And once you get an agent and those who are more well experienced, the branded program allows for a specific vintner or company to apply for funding, market funding that will help support their exports into Canada. And I just wanted to say, Valerie, is that we don't have historically a lot of wine or individual companies applying for these branded programs. And we welcome and we want to make an effort to advertise this program to the Canadian wine agents, because they get it. Once you get an agent and once you understand the market, it still takes advertising, merchandising funds to get your brand top of mind. And just to give you an idea, the program also will help fund for some of your costs coming into the market for a tasting. And I know New York's not very far away, but it will cover up to 50% of your cost in travel and in hotel stay and any registration fee. So I would like to encourage all of you and those who are already in the market to consider applying for funding. So with that next slide, I just there's 3 of us dedicated to market promotion. That's our emails, our phone numbers. Please don't hesitate to contact us. And if we don't know the answer, we'll certainly do our research on it. Thank you very much. I wish all of you the very best. Thanks, Valerie.
Thanks, Maria. We really appreciate that. Great overview, a lot of fantastic resources. And for those of you who are watching, we will go ahead and find the gain reports and all of the other reports that we often use when we're building our grant application on Canada. We'll link them in the follow-up email today so that folks can take a look at that. And a really good point about the branded program as well. I think we want to encourage those agents and those folks that are really already in Canada and doing some work there, let them know that that program's available and provide them access to the information on how to apply. So those are all really good points. So thank you very much. And I also just wanted to say thank you. We have some other partners on the line with us, and I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Sarah Gelby Hooker from Bryant Christie International. I don't know if Sarah wants to say hello. There she is. How's it going, Sarah? But Bryant Christie's been an extremely important partner with us as we've really tried to improve and expand the export program over the last 2.5 years. And Sarah was integral in leading that. So I just wanted her to introduce herself and say hello.
Thanks, Val. Yeah, so BCI has been working with the foundation for the last couple of years now, and we're excited about just continuing that partnership with the foundation and all of the in-market reps. And it's been a pleasure to work with your industry and all of you wineries. I think we've accomplished a lot together and made strides in the programming, and look forward to continuing that strong work in the new program year. So also excited to be working with the a.m.c.c team now in Canada. You all may remember working very closely with Robert Ketchen, and he's passed the torch along after many years of serving the foundation and the industry well. But we're excited about this new partnership with a.m.c.c and what they have in store for the year ahead. That's it for me.
Thanks, Sarah. It's great to see you. Yeah, and with that, I'm really happy to finally go ahead and turn over today's session to our partners from a.m.c.c, Melissa Stunden and Andrea Backstrom. I'll just say a few words about them. They have impressive backgrounds and a ton of experience in the Canadian drinks industry, including sales and marketing roles with national distributors and individual wine labels. And I believe, in addition, Melissa is also a certified sommelier serving on the board of the Canadian Association of Professional Sommeliers. And they're going to tell you a little bit more about themselves. It was a good at least 2 decades of working with Robert Ketchen and Ketchen Marketing in Canada. And a.m.c.c was selected through a very competitive RFP process to manage our marketing and education in the Canadian market. So we're excited to hear about their plans and a little bit more about the Canadian market. And Andrea, am I turning it over to you?
Yes, please. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Val, and thanks for the intro. And thank you, Maria, for your presentation. I did enjoy your description of the Canadian market as a labyrinth. I'm going to use that one moving forward, not to scare people away, but it is a wonderful labyrinth. Just want to say hi to everyone. You know, Melissa and I are really excited. We really enjoyed working with the foundation, with Robert over the past couple of years, and getting to know some of you, more so from Melissa, having traveled down there. But yeah, I think it's an exciting category. And maybe I'll just say a couple of quick things about Melissa and I. We've known each other for about 6 or no, I guess almost 8 years now. We both have been in the beverage alcohol industry for probably over 25 years combined. Melissa, as Valerie mentioned, is a certified sommelier, and she comes from a background as working as one of the somms at the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, where the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Raptors play here. So one of the largest accounts in Canada. And she also worked for Diageo, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And then most recently, before our company, she worked for Lifford Wine and Spirits, managing the restaurant business in downtown Toronto and all the national restaurant chains. So really great background in education and restaurants and operations. Myself, I come from Vancouver. I worked there in the industry for a number of years for Mark Anthony Brands, another company I'm sure you're familiar with in the US. They're a big distributor here in Canada as well. Worked there for a number of years before I moved out to Ontario, and then worked for Lifford, which is where I met Melissa. I was their Ontario sales director managing their commercial business. And Melissa and I just worked really well together and saw an opportunity to start a company and do some consulting and marketing for trade associations and other clients. So we pitched for Contract New Zealand and we decided to start a company. And here we are 5 years late, almost 5 years later, I guess. And really have just enjoyed working with each other. You know, we have a similar selling and style and a similar approach to the business, but yet we have a very different skill set. You know, Melissa really focusing on her side, and then myself having a bit more of a commercial background. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of work, but we're really excited for this new initiative with New York. So in saying that, I will just kind of talk a little bit about the Canadian market. I have some data slides that I'm going to share with you just to give an overall picture. I won't bore you for too long, but just so you understand what's happening in the market. And then Melissa's going to take you through some of the plans. So we are your neighbors to your north. As you know, we have about a 10th of your population at 38 million people. 2/3 of our wine drinkers are under 55 years old, which is great. We have a growing wine population and they're seeking premium wines. We drink a lot of wine at 2.2 liters per person. I'm sorry, I'm in a co-working space with a daycare next door. So there's some background noise with children moving inside. Sorry about that. So yes, a great wine consuming country and a really great place to grow category. The other great thing, obviously, with the proximity to the US, customers understand and appreciate wines from the US. Obviously, the big volume coming from California, but really has been a top imported country into Canada for a number of years. We've seen great growth in Oregon and Washington over the last few years. So it's a really great opportunity for I think, New York to really come in and, stake its place within the market here, especially in Ontario and Quebec, where we see the biggest opportunities. We do have a liquor monopoly system in most markets. There are some free markets in the West and some dual markets, but for where we'll be focusing, Ontario and Quebec, we have the monopoly system, which can be very structured and very frustrating at times, but can also be a really great place to work. The free markets can be, you can do whatever you want, but that takes away a lot of structure and a lot of collaboration. So I think that, what we're so excited about is that the LCB and the SAQ both have great buying teams. There's some new people and they're keen to work with us. We have great relationships. So I think we can really sort of collaborate with them to decide how best to bring New York wines into these markets. We are also a premium wine market. So, when you look at the data, you can see that, wine has sort of gone up and down the last few years of the pandemic, but we are growing faster in dollars and cases. And you're seeing the growth in the premium segments. And that's obviously where New York will be sitting. So we see that as a great opportunity for New York.
So I'll just walk you through a few of the consumer trends. So overall, there's a volume decline in wine, and that's based on RTD, so ready to drink. The 19 to 24 wine drinker making up less of an overall wine consumption. So again, that younger consumer is not necessarily drinking as much, and they are trending towards their sort of single serve styles. Some great opportunity with organic and natural wine. These same consumers are looking for things that are healthier for them. Again, on that trend of not drinking as much, but drinking better, to attribute to sort of that premium category as well. Consumers are also open to alternative formats. So we saw that throughout COVID. People are turning either to smaller formats, single serve, or even larger formats in terms of bag and box for ease of access and also for different occasions. The $15 to $25 segment continues to grow at 38% of all wine sales, and Andrea will touch a little bit more on that in the upcoming slides. E-commerce continues to grow. I mean, the overall population is continuing to shop online. We are working very closely with the LCBO in particular, as well as the SAQ, to help continue to grow that channel. They have really just begun their journey with e-com, but there is a lot coming up the pipeline. And then a strong trend, as I mentioned before, regarding healthier choices. So just really getting out there and telling the story and really understanding some of the things that are happening within the vineyards is really helping sort of drive that sale in terms of those wine styles. Next slide, Andrea.
Thank you. There we go. So just to give you a sort of a bigger picture of how wines sit within total beverage alcohol sales in Canada. So it's about $20.5 billion across the whole country. Wines making up 39% of all beverage alcohol sales. Beers making up 15%, coolers and RTD making up 11%, and spirits making up 36%. The growth in the overall category is 2.2%. Wine is seeing a slight decline. We kind of came into the pandemic. Wine had been growing for 10, 12 years, and then, we were starting to see a decline, and then the pandemic sort of changed everything. We saw a growth. There was the pantry load. There was a lot of people just, going back to their tried and tested and not a lot of exploration. But so those core brands and those core categories really saw a lot of growth. So that obviously presented some challenges over the last year or so with being a new category and trying to launch when consumers weren't going into stores, they weren't getting educated by product consultants, they weren't getting that opportunity to really explore. So it's nice that now we're sort of coming in with a fresh start and we can look at the opportunities for growth in wine now that we've kind of come out of that time, we hope. So this here is just going to give us a breakdown of wine sales by country of origin throughout Canada. France, Italy, and the US being the top in dollars. If we were to look at cases instead, the US would be number 2 over Italy. And so you'll see that France and Italy, we've seen a resurgence of the old world, and they're really driving a lot of growth right now at 6.5% and 6.7% respectively. US doing great at 3.2% growth. And then we're also seeing, through the pandemic, it was interesting. We saw domestic wine sales really increase, including the cellared in Canada, sort of our domestic blends, as people were looking at the bulk and a lot of people were drinking a lot at home and as cheap as possible for many times. So now you're seeing that flatten out. So it's interesting to look at this now and see that, Canada, cellared in Canada declining at 3.3%, and the domestic VQA, the premium directly from Canada, is now flattened out as well. I just want to show this to give you perspective as to why we're focusing on the markets we are focusing on, given we are such a big country. Maria spoke to this as well, but the 4 major markets really accounting for the majority of wine sales: Quebec, Ontario, BC, and Alberta. It's interesting if you look at Quebec and Ontario, they are close in proximity, but very different wine consumer. In Quebec, you're really getting that old world wine consumer. That's where 70% of all French and Spanish sales happen in that province. A lot of Italian wine. The New World countries are a little bit smaller. The US does really well there, just sort of having been around a long time. But when you look at South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, they definitely lose their share in the Quebec market. And when you flip this into case sales, you'd actually see Ontario kind of take over. So Quebec being a bit more of a premium wine market as well. So yes, you'll see here 70% of all sales do come from Quebec and Ontario. So, when we look as a foundation of to where to focus our energy, we're really hitting a huge portion of the opportunity within these 2 markets and focusing our resources here. And just to give a flip of the difference with now, we're just looking at only USA wine sales by province. Ontario, you can see the big jump here, right? So as Quebec sort of focuses more on that old world, you'll see the real dominance of the Ontario market for USA wine sales being over $500 million and growing at 3.2% here. Quebec doing great as well, still growing at 3.5%. So a good opportunity for us there. There's a great buyer that we're working with, Sabrina. We really are keen to work with her, and she understands the category and she's willing to work with us. So seeing these numbers and sort of seeing that relationship, we're excited for the Quebec market and what we can do there. And there's a lot of really great educators there and a lot of people that are open to learning. And, we've had a few conversations the last little while, and it's just kind of got us very excited about that market. And, as time goes on, who knows, maybe we expand into Alberta and BC, but I think for now, as we sort of get our grounding, it's really important to start with these 2 markets, not only due to the volume, but also proximity, right? It's very easy for us to bring people down to New York as well and see the regions and have ambassadors for ourselves. I just want to show this so you could see what our top varietals across the country are and just sort of see where the New York varietal sits. So it's a good opportunity for most here. The top varietals, blends being the number 1 in Canada, red blends, we really obviously saw the big surge of all the the California blends. They're starting to see a bit of a decline now, and you're seeing people go into other red varietals. Cabernet coming back with growth. Merlot still seeing a bit of a decline at 7%, but Pinot Noir showing more interest in the market here at +5%. Looking at top white varietals, Pinot Grigio has been number 1 for quite a while, largely due to the domestic wine market and the Italian Pinot Grigios, and it's flattening out right now. Chardonnay, which is great for us, showing a 4% growth. So I think there's a lot of interest in that varietal, especially in Quebec. It's one of the top varietals, obviously there due to their French influence. And then Sauvignon Blanc is growing at 1% and rounding out the top 3 white varietals. I wanted to show this slide too, just to give a quick sense of, where the people are buying, and, so you can sort of see that there is a really great opportunity where Canadians are buying. It was interesting through the pandemic how we saw, people, yes, going to, the bulk wine and that, right? There was a lot of people buying at the entry level, but then we also saw, other people that were not spending money dining out, but they were like, saving money there. So maybe buying nicer wine there. So we saw a lot of growth in the super premium, which has sort of sustained in the last little while, which is great. I love to see. So, and if you look at this, the top with blue under 10 is now only 10% of the wine market. 10 to 15 is at 29% of the market. And both of those are declining or flat. when you look at the 15 to 25, to see that that's 38% of the market, I think is just amazing. And it's the only one showing a bit of growth right now. And then 25 to 40, 14% of the market, and then plus 40 representing 9% of the market. So yes, we do drink a lot of premium wine here. And so there's no reason why we can't be drinking premium New York wine. Just quickly, I know Maria touched on this, so I won't speak too long, but just I think most of you kind of understood, how Ontario operates in terms of being a monopoly market. But one other point I did want to mention too, within the LCBO, the 675 LCBO stores, there are two distinct channels in the market. You've got the general list, where you've got really that under $20 wine available every day, tons of heavy programming, LTOs, big displays. We're not really obviously going to focus, I think, on that right now. Where we are going to focus our efforts is on the vintages channel, which is their premium. They do have vintages essentials, which would be wines available every day. So that's going to be like your Italian Pinot Grigios, your California Cabernets, and New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. And those are really sort of to be the benchmarks, and those are available every day within the premium segment. It's interesting, over the last little while, you've started to see, an essential come from Oregon and one come from Washington. So as those other US categories grow, you're starting to see a little bit of traction in that channel, which I think is great. So vintages essentials being the one side, and then there's the vintages frontline releases and the classics. So that's wines that come out every 2 weeks. The LCBO focuses on 50% of them being new to the market. The goal is to sell through them in 8 weeks, and then they have something new come through. So the goal is really like in and out. People are excited to see new wines in stores. Sometimes it's something they bought, 6 to 8 months ago or a year ago, and now it's back. So it's a great channel for New York wines. And then now they've recently launched as well e-commerce exclusives. And, e-commerce has been a bit of a battle for the LCBO. They haven't necessarily done the best job of it yet. It was really, they were forced to get good at it during the pandemic because it was really the only option for them to still grow. So there's been some changes, and they've got some new people in place that are willing to sort of work with us and make sure that we do see better sales. So last year when we had our New York release, it only went online, and I think that was definitely something we would prefer to see some in store. So the LCBO has actually evolved that program, and so anything that's an e-commerce exclusive will now actually go to the top 16 flagship stores as well. So this, I think, is a really great opportunity for New York wine, because they're getting the availability online. You're going to get some advertising that way, but then you're still in the top 16 stores, where those stores have a huge vintages sections. Those stores have proper product consultants that can hand sell the wine and really speak to the wines, right? So then on the flip side of that, Melissa and I want to focus our efforts on educating the product consultants so they can hand sell the wine. So that's sort of just been one change in the market, I think, for us now when we look at it. Of course, we want the vintages in-store releases, but I think these e-com exclusives have a bit more clout behind them now that you're going to get in those top 16 stores, which is really where we would see the majority of our sales. There's also the destination collection, which every country sort of has one focus store that has a more diverse offering of that one country. So the buyer for that category, Courtney Dawson, is actually coming with us on our trip, which Melissa will speak to in October. So I think she's a great person to bring, because she can bring in, just a lot of 10 cases of this wine and 6 cases of this wine and reorder. So those will just be available in that store and also available online. So as the LCBO develops their e-commerce and really expands that, I think that's going to continue to be a great opportunity for New York wines as well. And so that category is now in a tender process as well, which is great, because previously it was, people just applied and it was sort of not really a priority for people. But now that there's an actual tender process for all categories, I think that's a great opportunity for us. The consignment channel, so there's a number of agents here in Ontario that are very good in the consignment channel, and they focus on that. They have sales reps that sell directly to restaurants, and then these wines are only available to restaurants and private consumers. They would not be on LCBO shelves. So this is another great opportunity for New York wines for people to, maybe you have one wine that you want in the LCBO, and then you've got one wine that or one varietal that you just want to go into consignment. There's some great agents that can really develop the wines. And, Melissa and I have seen some of the wines around in restaurants, and it's just so great to see that representation. And then the route to market in Quebec is similar to Ontario. You've got 407 SAQ stores, 437 agency stores, and then 8,000 grocery stores. 86% of all wine sales happen at the SAQ. That's really where we are going to focus all of our energy. In the 8,000 grocery stores, they do also sell about 14% of wine. That is bulk wine that has been imported by 15 large companies that have the license to do so, and they bottle it and it's sold in those grocery stores. So really sort of entry level bulk wines that are coming there. So not going to be a focus for us there. So our energy will be on the SAQ, and similar to the LCBO, they have two channels. They have generalist, similar to the LCBO, and then they have specialty, which is the equivalent of the vintages here. So that is where we see the opportunity for New York wines. And Melissa will speak to a couple of the opportunities coming up with their tender processes, which is how they work as well. There's two opportunities coming up this fiscal year within the SAQ tender process. They also have a channel similar to Ontario for restaurants, is private importation is what they call it. A little bit easier to access than the Ontario consignment. Ontario consignment can be a bit complicated in the way that you're only allowed certain space and only certain agents are able to operate in that. Whereas Quebec, it's a bit more open to everyone. There's not, exclusionary rules on how many cases you've sold. So most agencies will sell private import. So it's another great opportunity for us as we move into that market and get wineries representation. We want to make sure these agents have access to the SAQ as well as access to selling to restaurants, because I think that'll be key in developing in that market. And I will stop talking for a little bit now and pass it over to Melissa.
Thank you, Andrea. A few key points actually that Andrea mentioned that I just wanted to reiterate. One, in terms of the data and the subsets and the category sets that we just looked at, we encourage you, we have worked through all of these and have really based our plans on those specific varietals and specific areas in which we think will be successful. So we really encourage you to reach out if you need any advice on which varietals to be working with within the channels and the opportunities that I will present to you shortly. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And I know within Ontario, the Ketchin marketing team has done a really great job of working with the wineries to secure agent relationships. And we know that Quebec is a brand new market for a lot of you. So we will be working with you individually to help support you in your search for an agent in that market as well. Because as Maria mentioned, and Andrea also, it's really important. That's really the first step in working within these two markets. So on that, we have some really exciting plans for you in the upcoming year. First and foremost, we have a reverse trade mission happening in fall. So the dates have just been confirmed, and we were approved by the LCBO to have two of their buyers join us on the trip. So we have Courtney Dawson, who Andrea mentioned is the LCBO Senior Category Manager for the Destination Collection. And she's a fantastic person, but also really big into wine and really understands sort of not only the classics, but outside of the box. So she's done a really great job over the last couple of years sourcing some really interesting wines to present in that online and destination collection channel. And then Mark Staples is a new buyer with us. So he's a product manager for New World Wines, and he'll be focusing on New York, and he'll be joining us as well. And we are in the process as well of inviting two media, one from Ontario, John Zabo, who's also a master sommelier, and Nadia Fournier, who writes for the Guide de Vin, and she's been extremely influential in helping guide not only consumers, but trade in the Quebec market. So I think both of those will be great ambassadors for us and also educators when the time comes. So as mentioned, this trip is going to be happening in the fall. So we've secured the dates of the 3rd to the 6th, and we're really excited to be able to include both Long Island and the Finger Lakes. And we would love to have all of the export winery program wineries involved in this trip. So between winery visits, as well as unique opportunities within each market where we can do regional tastings, we will also have some meals as well, which will be including wine. So there will be lots of opportunity for everyone to participate, and we will be reaching out to you via bottle books in the next few weeks. So please keep an eye out for that email. The next slide, Andrea. So we wanted to walk you through sort of the plans by market, and we've sort of broken it out by liquor board and education and events. So we thought we'd start with Ontario. Most of you are familiar with this province. So again, as Andrea mentioned, this is a monopoly market. We work solely with the LCBO. However, there are other opportunities, as Andrea mentioned, through consignment and bottle shops. This is a new avenue that's been explored since COVID, where restaurants are able to sell bottles by the bottle, not only just with food, but also as a bottle shop. So there are opportunities there if you are working within the consignment channel. We'd be remiss not to mention that over the last few years, we did have a number of challenges with release and the New York category coming in solely online, as well as COVID. Andrea also mentioned that with COVID, most people had gone back to sort of their tried, tested, and true brands and didn't have the opportunity to walk the stores and actually look and discover new products. And most importantly, they didn't have the opportunity to taste them. So I think for us, education is really key in terms of the product consultants, as well as getting liquid on lips. So we do have some opportunity in the spring to work with the LCBO in creating a tasting program. As Andrea mentioned as well, the e-com program is something that we're really focusing on. We think there's a lot of opportunities now with them pushing out these key brands to 16 top stores where the majority of our sales would come from. And we're looking really forward to understanding how they're going to be expanding this program in the months to come. And then successes, again, that's just really being able to get product in bricks and mortar stores so that we can take advantage of the foot traffic, but we can also help support liquid on lips. So next steps, I'm very excited to have just confirmed a meeting on September 21st with the entire LCBO category purchasing team with Sam Filler. So we have some really exciting plans to present, not only for this year, but for the upcoming 3 years. So we're looking further ahead to figure out how we can support the category and help support the growth over the next 3 years. Again, we will be looking at having a regional thematic in the spring. We're going to be suggesting April again, which has been the year that between April and May that they have historically released New York wines. And we think that's a really great opportunity just coming into the spring, summer season, where people are really excited to get outside. And there's some fabulous wines that sort of relate to that thematic. Again, LCBO in-store tasting program is really important for us in our plans this year because we really want to get liquid on lips. We want people to try these wines, understand a bit more about how they show and how they compare, and be able to explore new regions such as New York. Now, the e-com program also, in combination with their digital media program, it's something that we worked on this past year, and we found that working within the digital space is a really powerful tool, and being able to guide people to that program is really important. So we have also earmarked some funding to help support the traffic to the online program. Next slide. There we go. Education, my favorite. So we have some really exciting events happening. We are going to be hosting them in April, again, similar to our previous years when we've done tastings in the spring. We like to try and align them with the release of the LCBO so that we can capitalize on those products being available for sale as well. We had some really amazing success, as Maria mentioned, her attendance, as well as Susan Crystal. They were there to participate in the masterclass. It was led by two of our New York ambassadors, Jennifer Huther, Master Sommelier, and Sarah D'Amato, who's been an ambassador for New York for the last couple of years. We hope to have them back, and perhaps John Zavo, who will be attending in the fall, as well as basically for us, it's really important to continue to walk through sort of an overview of the New York wine growing regions, help them understand the differences between them, but also the similarities. We, of course, have the local wine market, which is very, very similar. And I think there's a lot of loyalty to that market, but people are willing to explore and understand sort of our neighbors to these. So it's really a great opportunity for us to present this to the trade. We're also looking at, I mean, one of the things that came out of COVID, of course, is the ability to also have hybrid events where we can film these master classes and bottle smaller tasting packs up and send them to those who can't attend in Toronto. And we've had a lot of really great feedback from these types of tastings, just unfortunately not shouldn't say unfortunately, but not everyone lives in Toronto. So we have to take advantage of that and be able to help support our trade across all of Southern Ontario. And then a walk around tasting. Last year we hosted a South Pour walk around tasting, which was really great. We included all export winery partners that were interested in participating. We had a great space. We kind of held it in a lofty sort of condo building type event space that was super modern and it was just a great way to sort of explore the regions. We had them separated by region, and we had Christopher Bates there that was helping support along with myself and Robert Ketchen. So we hope to do something similar this year. Hopefully we'll have even more wineries participate again this year. Last year we did 2 wines per winery, but we felt that people were looking for even more representation from each winery. So we'll open that to 3 wines per winery this year as well. And really just want to showcase the diversity in style by region and by winery. Next slide. And each of these events will be hosted via bottle books. So when the time comes, we will reach out directly to you with these opportunities through bottle books. So moving on to Quebec, again, a monopoly market. We work with the SAQ. This is a new market. So again, this will be something where we'll look to help support you with finding an agent representation. We have a number of really great opportunities. We just recently met with Sabrina Boucher, who's the buyer for this category, and she was really excited about these opportunities. We'll have 2 tenders this year, and these will be coming through our office. One is opening in September, and this is really based on orange, organic, biodynamic, and vegan. So these are all sort of the low intervention opportunities. And this will be circulated from our office. And again, if you are interested in participating in this opportunity, please don't hesitate to reach out and we can help. We can start working with you on finding an agent. In January, we are looking at hosting a discovery tasting with all export wineries. So we've done this in a couple markets with a couple other clients, and we found that this is a really, really great way to get in front of the buyer. To my knowledge, Andrea, I don't know if you have any insight on this, but we are one of the only companies that are working with the liquor boards in this way. And it will be an opportunity for every export winery to present a wine. Now, I host the tasting and I walk them through each wine. And from there, the category manager, in this case, Sabrina, puts together essentially a wish list for her upcoming tender, which will be happening in February following this tasting. So there's a really great opportunity to get your wines tasted and in front of the buyer prior to the tender in February, which will be coming through our office.
Just to sort of add on to that, I think this is also just kind of one of those things that came out of COVID. Really, we had always tried to just represent the wines when we had principals in market with other clients. You try to do a speed date and get them as much face time as possible, but then we saw an opportunity to sort of maybe do virtual, and we set up virtual meetings with wineries, and then we just sort of have expanded on that in the last year, and weren't really sure if people would be open to it, but we started with BC as there's a bit more of an openness in that market. And Melissa hosted a tasting and tasted, I think almost 95 wines with the buyer. And then we did it with the SAQ recently. And then now we've discovered that the LCBO is also open to it. So it's kind of been one of those things that we developed through COVID that we've kind of expanded on. And now it's great because having Melissa there, it's not like we can get every winery in the room with the LCBO to taste wines. If you were to come to the market and meet with your agent with the liquor board, they're not going to let you taste the wines with them in that meeting. They really only reserve that for their tender process. So for us to have the opportunity for Melissa to taste these wines with them, she can speak to all the wineries, she can speak to the wines and really sort of guide them through that. It's a really exciting initiative that we've started, and we hope that our competitors don't, get onto it too soon. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's a really great way to get new wines in the market and sort of influence the buying process a bit and sort of encourage them along the way. Normally when they do a tasting, it's with their own internal team and they're all just in a room by themselves, right? So it's a great opportunity for us, I think, moving forward. I'm sorry
Next
about my
slide. No,
slides here. My
no, no.
mouse is going nuts, Melissa. Sorry.
Good. I think 2 more slides from Ontario. So I'll speak to it. The education events for us, with Toronto, with the Toronto event, we will be encouraging wineries to participate in this. We'll be looking for representation from each region, and we want to capitalize on the travel time and the expertise that we'll have in market. So we're looking at continuing sort of that roadshow into Quebec. Sorry, one more slide, Andrea. There we go. So it will be hosted in April as well. So it will follow Toronto. And we really think that one of the most important things is to get in front of the trade and media and really educate, because this is a lot of the trade and media will be new to this category and to this region. We really want to focus on the overview and the understanding within the diversity in each wine growing region has to offer. So hopefully with Nadia's acceptance to our trip in the fall, she'll be able to lead that tasting. And the other thing we should mention with the Quebec market is most of the communication, obviously being an English speaking country, can come in English, but we really found some strong acceptance if the master class is hosted in French. So Nadia, obviously bilingual, will be able to lead this in French for us. And then following that, we'll do a walk around tasting similar to Toronto. And we'll, again, really focus on separating this by region and inviting all export winery programs to participate in this with a few wines to showcase. Next slide, I think, is the end. Yeah, I'm sure if everyone has any questions, we'd be happy to answer those. We're really excited to be working with all of you this year, and we're really looking forward to the plans that we have in place. And we'd be happy to answer any questions if there were any at the moment.
Yeah, we have a couple minutes. People can just unmute themselves or just say hello or type it into the chat. While those are coming in or until those are coming in, I have 2 other notes. I don't know, maybe if you want to speak to one of these. Just the events that you talked about are really exciting. We're very happy to move forward with the trip. It's great to see people again. So whether any event that we have through the export program, whether it is an individual meeting with your winery, so a visit to your winery, or a group trip, the individual meetings or the individual visits to your winery usually the invite will come 6 to 8 weeks in advance. At least that's the ideal, right? And those invites will come from the New York Wine and Grape Foundation, usually myself or Sarah, somebody from Brian Christie, and then Melissa and Andrea will follow up on logistics with you. So you'll hear from us hopefully about that inbound trade mission, kind of 6 to 8 weeks in advance of that October 3rd date. And then in terms of the group events where you might be submitting wines for a walk around tasting or a masterclass, you mentioned bottle books a couple of times. And I know for those that are here live engaged in the program already, they know about it. It's basically an online repository or a database where you store the whole kind of the group of wines that you're interested in exporting to this market. But for those that are new to it, could you explain that just a little bit, the bottle books process? I don't know if that's Sarah or if that is.
I can speak to it. So for each of the events that, as Val said, you'll be participating in, where we're requesting wines from your organization, we set up a bottle books event. So, if you haven't joined the export program yet, or this doesn't sound familiar to you, contact myself or Melissa Balding at BCI, and we can help get you established in the bottle book system. And then essentially you will be notified each time we make an event live to register and select your wines that you would like to put forward. And in some cases, our in-country rep teams will have specific asks for those wines. And so some may already be pre-selected. Some events may be by invitation only because there's this very specific criteria for some of the events. But the idea is that you're able to upload all of this information about your wines into bottle books. We are able to then easily access and download that into a nice catalog, which is then shared, with Key Trade, or for example, we can print a packing list to accompany a shipment. And, if you're using some of the same wines across all of our market programs, we're not having to ask you multiple times to provide the same information. So the idea is that it hopefully streamlines things for everybody, and provides a really great tool for us, to have you seamlessly register and participate in events.
Thanks,
Anything
Karen.
to add on that?
No, I think the most that we can say is that it might take a little bit of time in the beginning, but afterwards it saves a ton of time for every event that you want to be engaged in. Kind of once the process is kind of nailed down and you are familiar with it, I think it saves everyone a lot of time for each event that they want to engage in. And just to make sure that folks who are watching this who might not officially be signed up for the export program, kind of now is that time to officially sign up and kind of pay for your participation. And then you will start receiving the official invites when they go out. I just wanted to make sure that folks knew about that. Were there any other questions? I know we have about 2 minutes left, so happy to open up the floor. All right. Well, I know that Melissa and Andrea are always available for questions afterwards, just in case something comes up. So it's great to see you both here today. You guys probably already know this, but we're going to definitely send out a follow-up email. It'll include this recording. Hopefully, Andrea and Melissa, we can include the presentation.
For sure. Yeah.
And Maria will include as many links as we can pull together for all the gain reports and everything else that Maria mentioned. We'll put those resources in there as well. And we will also put a link to sign up for the program for those that haven't yet. So it was great to see everybody here today. We really appreciate it. And yeah, let us know if there are any questions. Otherwise, I think enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.